Hi everybody. We are continuing with our work on these charts, which give a kind of overview. There is some repetition from chart to chart, but they give an overview of some of the major categories that we have covered in the 80 points, and they allow us to move from petal to petal. Whereas when we studied the petals meticulously, we may have forgotten what had gone before, nor could we anticipate necessarily what would go ahead. So we're on program number 66, and this is a chart that basically says the petals and the races. Of course, it has some other categories in it, and I'm going to sort of expand this a little bit. The last column will come in later, but right now I go ahead to expand it, maybe like that, and that will pretty well give us what we need to look at the first columns. And then, as we go along, we will do more. Let's see if I can. So this is all about the 12 petals and the sun-moon polarities. We have talked a bit about that. The moon is connected with the first petal when we just simply look at the sun, moon, and some of the greater constellations. And when the moon is connected, of course, the lower aspect of the Pleiades is connected because it has so much to do with matter. So the lunar vehicles, especially the physical one, for the Lemurian petal, number 1. Then we enter the Atlantean petal. The moon still rules. It's a matriarchate. And the astral body is emphasized, but the physical body is not necessarily de-emphasized. And then comes still another petal, petal number 3, ruled by the moon, and the lower mind enters the picture. It is a petal of growing intelligence, but it's very concrete. Petal number 4 has to do with the moon as the ruler of all 4 personality elementals, including the collective personality elemental. Mind, emotions, physical, plus the union as the personality. We get to petal 5. There's a battle going on here between the sun tendencies. Well, the sun and the moon rule. And they can cooperate in a way because when we're dealing with the lower sun, it really includes all the 4 lunar vehicles and their ahamkaric expression. But when we get later into the petal and the possibility for aspiration occurs, then we have a battle between the sun and the moon and many lives of conflict, as DK has told us in relation to this 5th petal. So it's the sun and the moon, and eventually it's the higher sun. Now, thus it is for petal number 6, which is a petal of purification and self-correction. The higher sun is fighting with the moon, and pains are taken to correct the lunar realm. We might even say that because Virgo is the major sign for that petal, that the esoteric moon, the meaning of it is coming into focus. From petal number 7, 8, and 9, they are definitely solar petals. We still have a personality, of course, but the initiations are applied in these petals, and they are initiations are always connected with the sun rather than the moon. So although we don't really reach a solar initiation until petal number 9, still we do have probationary initiations occurring. First initiation, you see, the Christ is the sun, and this is the birth of the Christ in the heart. And then petal number 8, the heart of the sun. And petal 9, our first contact with the central spiritual sun. So I think I should put that in. heart of the sun, heart of the sun. And with some of these it's easy to see, and others, unfortunately, I am not the one who knows how to handle these Excel sheets. But you get the idea. Central spiritual sun. And the one initiator is the officiator of that at that initiation. And even here at initiation number 1, the heart of the sun is coming in. However, not as strongly as at petal number 8, where the energies of the heart of the sun via Neptune really have to work out a transformation in the astral body. So these are definitely solar initiations. Now, when we get into petal number 10 and 11, we have the continuation of the true solar initiations, and I've included the growing influence of Sirius, certainly the heart of the sun, and then central spiritual sun. We could say that the influence of the central spiritual sun is growing because the intimation of the spirit is growing. The father aspect after the 3rd degree gets stronger and stronger. And this doesn't mean that the influence of Sirius is declining, because Sirius is ruling all of these initiations, perhaps up to the 7th and maybe beyond, even though other and greater sources may come in at that point, such as the one about whom naught may be said, or some degree of energy from that great being. But I do believe that the Syrian initiations continue. When one is a 9th degree initiate, one is in fact a master in the Syrian regime. And I include the Great Bear because it has the will aspect of the rays expressed through it. And the will aspect is growing with petal number 10, 11, and 12. I guess, in one way we could say that this has late Pleiades involved with it. Why would I say that? Because the Pleiades also relate to the solar angel, and the Pleiades have cosmic Buddhi connected with them. So, even though you can't see it here, you did see it. So the 11th petal, especially of universal love, late Pleiades in its Buddhic aspect. And we'll put it that way. I'd like to be able to make it look correct, but at least it is there. And it can be expanded out with a spreadsheet. And we would say here the 4-square moon, and we will say early Pleiadian influence. And this applies to all of the lower to the first petals. Early Pleiadian influence, and this continues because it's such a ray 3 influence for the knowledge petals. The question is, how do these energies really reach us? And that is going to be a mystery for us. It is something that can only be solved by some advanced knowledge of higher, subtle physics, far beyond the etheric level. Now, as I saw, some of these have been repetitions, but they don't. We can go over them slightly. The different halls. We're in the hall of ignorance, ignorance, and ignorance. We're not really in the hall of learning yet at petal number 3. Why? It's not because we're not intelligent. We are intelligent, man, but we don't really sense the higher of the pairs of opposites within us. So the learning is all about a relationship with the higher of the pairs of opposites, which suggests the love aspect, and we are learning all kinds of things about social interaction according to the influence of the love energy. So the Hall of Learning operates 4, 5, and 6, as we can see. And with 7, 8, and 9, we're in the Hall of Wisdom. Wisdom 1, Wisdom 2, Wisdom 3. And the Hall of Wisdom. And here, when it comes to petal number 10, I don't think the word master really applies. It's still very much the Hall of Wisdom, but if there's such a thing as the Hall of Being, then we are anticipating what that means. And I'm going to Hall of Being. And we'll get rid of this word body. Sometimes I think things were kind of put in here that didn't need to be. But it's a very time-consuming task, you know. But I think you can get the idea. That's the important thing, that the egoic lotus and its potentials should be for you a living reality, the Hall of Being. I'm just making that up, but Master DK told us that he was initiate into the mysteries of being, and that should tell us something about his status. So I suppose it really means that he is a master. At first he simply called himself an initiate, but later, at some point, he signed himself off as the Master Jwal Kul, and that was unintentional, but okay. It could be used as a test, he said. What would be the reaction of his students to discovering that he was a master? And, you know, probably many had intuited that even before the time when that was made. Now, the books are interesting. The Book of Form, Book of Wisdom, and the Book of Life. So the Book of Forms, again, correspond with the moon. And, you know, if we go to Esoteric Astrology, page 23, we'll see what he's talking about here. Let's see, the view, oh, that's okay. So it's the Book of Life, a Book of Wisdom, and Book of Form, or Manifestation. And we see they're connected with the 12 creative hierarchies, the 12 planets and the 12 constellations, respectively. But we're beginning below, because we are numbering from the earlier petals, and obviously the Book of Form, or of Manifestation, is lower than the other books. So I think what I'll add here is Manifestation. Let's see what happens. Okay. Form or Manifestation. And it's not going to let me do that. Oh, that did. Okay. So now I'll just add all of these in. It's a little more complete. So the first 3 petals corresponding to the moon, and actually first 4 petals corresponding to the moon, but, you know, the higher aspect of the personality, form and manifestation. I would have to say, for petal number 5, it should not simply be form, manifestation, but it should be form, manifestation, and incipient wisdom. Because the higher, the pairs of opposites are factors factors in one's understanding, or factors in one's growing understanding. And with petal number 6, it's the same when we're talking about the work that's done in petal number 6. Now, form manifestation, I want to call that waning form manifestation. And even here, well, I think we can look at petal number 6, sort of a Virgo petal in a way, although you know the many other possible signs associated and why. Incipient wisdom. You see now, when we're simply working in the petal, and I'm not talking about its unfolding under the influence of the solar angel or the rod of initiation. When we're simply working in the petal, we're working towards the hall of wisdom. Almost from the 5th petal, when we become an aspirant, we're in the sort of antechamber of the hall of wisdom. We are striving towards participation with and identification with the higher of the pairs of opposites. The soul is in sight. When we get to petal number 7, we're definitely in the hall of wisdom, because the first initiation, hall of wisdom, entering the spiritual kingdom, first initiation, sacrifice petals, these all go together. And wisdom for the 7th petal, 8th petal, much of the 9th petal. We're not really stopping wisdom, because a master of the wisdom has no egoic lotus at all. So he's still in the hall of wisdom in a way, but he's an initiate in the mysteries of being. So let's just call this sort of life being. Life being coming into sight at the 9th petal, when the 3rd initiation is understood or taken. And then with petals 10 and 11 and 12, the synthesis petal, the hall of wisdom continues, but we're still in the stages of life being. In other words, the being aspect, the life aspect, they are making their impression. The father aspect. Matter of fact, I think what I could say here, the father aspect is the will. It's really coming more strongly into effect. Father, life being. Now, if we really want to kind of understand this, the father aspect is not exactly the being aspect. It's the will aspect. The being aspect is more than Father, Son, or Holy Ghost. It is more. So Father wisdom, Father life being, and I'm going to say that for all of these synthesis petals, and it's even more so after the egoic lotus is destroyed. Now finally we get to that grouping and the chart for which the chart is entitled. We know that the first petal is the Lemurian petal, and its unfoldment takes a long time. The second is the Atlantean or the emotional petal, and its unfoldment still takes a long time, though not as long as the Lemurian petal. And then, we're still in the Atlantean phase, but we're really entering early Aryan in the 3rd petal, because it is a petal of intelligence, but there's still plenty of emotion. We're laying our life upon the altar of desire, as Master D.K. has told us. When we get into the 4th petal, we're early middle Aryan. It's a petal of integration and increasing quality of how the personality functions. So the personality is rising, but it's not yet blazingly expressive as it is in the 5th petal, which I would call middle Aryan, where we find the advanced man trending towards the aspirant. In the 6th petal, I'm calling this later middle Aryan. When the true middle Aryan, and let's just say later middle Aryan, and I'm going to call this the later Aryan period, when we get into petal number 7, where the first initiation is taken. Now, we do have to remember, of course, that initiation also did occur in the Atlantean period, but they were ahead of their time in a way, because they were functioning according to the number 5, which has so much to do with initiation. They were still in the middle of the 4th root race. So I'm calling 7, 8, and 9 later Aryan, and we have to remember that the 6th subrace will be intuitive. Now, some of that's coming in, but the 6th root race will be intuitive, but the 6th subrace will give us the abstract mind. So when the Antakarana is being built in the 8th petal and continuing in the 9th petal, we're into the abstract mind strongly. And that's why I say there's the anticipation here. The 6th subrace is operative. Not so many people are entering that phase at this time. Just a few, perhaps, who are, for our groups, the vanguard. Of course, there have been all kinds of vanguards ahead of us, and we're relatively so little evolved, even though we are the one life. Our particular expression, the particular expression of our monad and extension is very slightly evolved compared to far greater expressions of the monad and extension. There's only one monad. When I talk about extension, I talk about what I call prakritic immersion, or immersion into the consciousness of the increasing depths of matter. By the time we get to 10, 11, and 12, I'm calling this advanced Aryan. We're beyond the 3rd initiation, and we are the abstract mind is strong. Let me just say, plus easy use of abstract mind. Okay. And the 11th petal, the 6th root race, plus intuition, stronger, even stronger than in the 8th petal, obviously, because buddhi is being cultivated after the 3rd initiation. And advanced Aryan and the 6th root race, some idea of what the 7th root race may be will come in with the atmic influence at the 12th petal. Gives small anticipation of the atmic of the 7th root race. Now, we have this idea of the so-called rounders. Let's say Plato was considered a 5th rounder, Confucius a 5th rounder, and so forth, meaning that they had accomplished mastership, or that which the higher groups would accomplish during the 5th round. The Chohans are 6th rounders, and the Christ and the Buddha are 7th rounders in terms of our chain. Maybe by the time our chain has reached its 7th round, the highest of the groups will have achieved this advanced Chohanic status, Chohan of the 7th degree. So the Masters of the Wisdom are really far ahead of our round, and to the extent that we are entering the 5th kingdom of nature, we are also ahead of our round. It's something more to be accomplished by many during the 5th round and before the Judgment Day, middle of the 5th round, they tell us. DK is not too specific about exactly when that Judgment Day, separating the sheep from the goats, is going to occur in our chain and in the 5th round. Sometimes he's specific, but not about that. So people like ourselves, we are in the advanced Aryan stage, and we're in the 6th sub-race stage, And we're having, maybe the seventh sub-race stage will tell us something about the will. Anticipation of the seventh root race through the seventh sub-race of the fifth root race. But, the minute the intuition really begins to function, we're already into that which will be strongly developed in the sixth root race. So we have to look at developments in future sub-races like 5 sub 6, 5 sub 7, which will be, the abstract mind, and maybe in 5 sub 7, something connected with the seventh principle, Atma, may be emerging. But then when the sixth root race emerges, it's intuition per se. And later, when the seventh root race emerges, we will be anticipating what will occur in a more general sense during the seventh round. During the sixth root race, there will be an anticipation of what will occur more generally in the sixth round. So all of these sub-races of the present fifth, future root races and future rounds present opportunity for the expansion and deepening of consciousness. However, what will happen in later times for the general mass of people, and not for all necessarily, but let's just say by the time we have the sixth round and the seventh round, what will happen for the general mass can happen much earlier, and even in this fifth root race for those who subject themselves to that forcing process we call initiation. It's kind of self-chosen in a way, We're told how it can be accomplished, and then we choose whether to subject ourselves to the strenuous and abnormal efforts which are involved in the initiatory process. Now it is pretty clear that esoteric psychology plays a great role in the unfoldment of the egoic lotus. There are many types of correlations we can look at. Some of you who have studied esoteric psychology know there's such a thing as the ACLRI process, ACLRI, we call it, alignment, crisis, light, revelation, integration, and I've done some programs on that in terms of the techniques of integration for each type of soul ray, because these processes are determined by the soul ray rather than the personality ray, even though we're talking about the integration of the personality. The last term, integration. But of course it suggests more than the selfish integration of the personality. It suggests the integration of two energy systems, that of the soul and that of the personality, not just the personality within itself. Well, kind of expanded this idea a little bit, and talked about the paths. This is a bit small. I can see that. That's an 8. So let's see here if we can make this an 8. And it does seem to be an 8, but probably the wrong font. Yes, it is the wrong font. That's our problem. Okay. Oops. So what I'm going to do is switch to, if I can, to Verdana. Now it's going to be the right size. Okay. So the path of evolution, path of ambition, path of selfish integration, EAI, precede the ACLRI process. Then comes alignment with the soul, the crisis caused thereby by the approach of the soul, the growing light which dawns due to the soul system and the personality system coming together, the the light reveals that which must be repulsed. So I include another R in there, the law of repulse. Then comes the revelation of the plan. Then comes the integration of the two energy systems, and then F, fusion of soul consciousness with personality consciousness. Pretty much, I think, while the two systems are integrating in a practical and energic, from a practical energic point of view, the fusion of consciousness is also occurring. But fusion is considered to be a higher type of blending. Then comes initiation. And then something called the unknown. I'm not sure what it is. I have, I'm not going to call it identification. Initiation is there, and maybe I should just call this a U. Well, initiation and universalization. But I think that should come actually here. Initiation, and then comes this duality, the technique of duality. As a matter of fact, as I look at this DUI, driving under the influence. Well, anyway, a universalization and identification are the last ones. The technique of duality could even precede. I'm kind of rearranging this whole thing, as you see, as I go along. Initiation. So we have fusion, and then the antichironic technique of duality, then initiation, then universalization, then identification. So fusion, and I'll call it duality, initiation, and I don't really have synthesis here. Don't really need it, I think. Universalization and identification. There are also what you would call phases in the initiatory process, from concentration Leo, meditation Virgo. You can probably correlate with them with the petals to a certain extent. Contemplation Libra, illumination Scorpio, inspiration Sagittarius, ninth petal, inspiration by the father aspect. Then I would add initiation, universalization, identification. Initiation Capricorn, universalization Aquarius, identification Pisces. So there are some ways in which this expanded idea of the achlary corresponds with these phases of the meditative process, all the way from Leo, concentration, to Capricorn, initiation. Then I've added myself, universalization and identification, to take in Aquarius and Pisces. So, the first three petals pretty much are on the path of evolution. And the individual is rising in power, but is not yet an integrated personality. And by the time reaching the fourth petal, we will have integration, selfish, and ambition. It's starting. And that continues in the fifth petal. We know how much trouble the fifth petal can cause before the fall. The fall is what brings the man not so much to his senses, but to his soul. We say he brings him to his senses, but we really mean it relates him to the deeper aspect of his nature. So integration selfish really can be in full flower. Maybe I should call it selfish integration. SI, integration selfish. I'll put it here like this. SI, selfish integration, which of course then really brings on ambition, because a.m. because the man wants to rise. That which he believes himself to be is seen as deserving of a greater place. And so petal number 5, this certainly continues. The selfish integration continues. Ambition comes in, but then, the fall. It just doesn't work, and it is futile. As a matter of fact, if I were to put in here alignment, light, crisis, well, let's just say a kind of an F could go in here. Selfish integration, a kind of an F for futility. F for futility, fall and futility. And I would say that so many of us who are working hard in this area of the ageless wisdom have really been through the futility, the perceived futility of strictly personality advancement. By the time we get to the 6th petal, the ambition is waning. Definitely. So, even in the latter part of the 7th petal, we have been, after futility, we've aligned with the higher self. It happens now and then, just happens spontaneously. And then we begin to cultivate that alignment, and the soul will draw near, creating a crisis of two clashing energy systems, and as a result of that crisis, the light will break forth, generally revealing one's condition, which was unexpected. So we continue here in petal number 6, earnestly trying to correct. It's a petal of self-correction. Of course, self-correction does continue onward and onward, past the 3rd, 4th. Self-correction is a permanent attitude of the monad in extension retracting along its line of emanation. So certainly in petal number 6, the alignment is sharpened, and the crisis is more acute. The light is breaking forth, and I can call it maybe repulse, initial. We start trying to get rid of things that don't fit, but the real law of repulse only comes in when we can contact the spiritual triad, because it is the first law of the soul which involves the spiritual triad, which is the true ego, or then, in a sense, the true soul. So the last 4 of the laws of the soul involve the spiritual triad, true ego or true soul. By the time we get to the 7th petal, we're certainly continuing to strengthen our alignment so that initiation can occur. The crisis intensifies. Light continues to break forth, revealing all that we, about ourselves, all that we desire least. And repulse continues, but not even in fullest measure. And let's just say some degrees, a small degree of revelation of the plan, RV, enters here. Small revelation, and some degree of soul infusion, F1, and P, probationary initiation, is occurring. It's the 1st degree. Now you never, alignment is the beginning and the end. So we can't really ever say that we do without alignment. So when we get to petal 8, which is so crucial in humanity, alignment is strengthened, crisis intense. Light of the soul, after all, it's the petal of illumination, isn't it? It has a lot of Scorpio and also Taurus for illumination, and also Leo for illumination, the will to illumine in Leo. I've discussed, how those various signs are related to petal number 8. And, I always feel it's hard to say which comes first, the chicken or the egg here. In a way, when the light is revealing, the will to repel that which stands in the way of further personality purification and elevation comes in, and that's the law of repulse. Revelation is strong. The revelation of the divine plan, a person, new group of world servers comes in here at the 8th petal, where the second initiation comes. The second stage of infusion, correlating with the second degree and probationary initiation, continues. Let's call it PI. I've complexified all this a little bit. It just started out as the Achlary process. And because we can build the Antakarana and even use it to some point, the technique of duality is operative. And, you know, we can say, let's just say probationary. We'll call it ongoing integration. We'll call it fusion 2, and I guess what I would call this is OI, ongoing integration. And I even want to put that here before fusion 1, OI, ongoing integration. Because as the fusion process occurs and we know more and more what the soul thinks, there's definitely an integration of these energy systems. Petal 9 is so important because the real initiation occurs here. So, alignment, crisis, light, real revelation. Well, let's just say strong. Revelation of the divine plan, strong continuing repulse of all that stands in the way of the divine plan, of all standing in the way of the divine plan. Third stage of fusion, we sometimes call it soul infusion. Now you're a real soul-infused personality. Well, you know, to a degree that's so. Your Antakarana is becoming stronger, and we really can take initiation at this point. Initiation, the third degree. So, you know, all of these little symbols have to mean something. Initiation and ongoing revelation. I think we have to talk about that and where is that occurring. Ongoing revelation, ongoing revelation of the plan. Fusion is being completed, duality even more so, because the Antakarana is becoming more and more functional. Duality, technique of duality, focus on abstract mind. There is a growing synthesis, let's call it universalization 1, U1, and growing identification. So if I were to take this and put this here in petal number 11, ongoing revelation plan, completing fusion, focus on Buddhi, which is in a way the general focus of the synthesis petals, but focus on Buddhi. And universalization 2, let's say, phase 2. It means, you know, a growing sense of the whole and growing identification as the whole. So now when we get to petal 12, the ostensibly Pisces petal, where am I? Okay, here we are. We're going to call this Focus on Atma, and it's Universalization 3. Focus on Atma. Now, we're not there yet, of course. The Master is in Atma, and we are just having an anticipation of it through this petal of spiritual will. But at least it's harbinger of things to come. And I doubt if any of us are really at this stage. Maybe some in the future who read these kinds of things will be. But, you know, to confirm the third initiation is a very big step. So growing identification, so initiation has occurred, ongoing revelation of the plan, always, completing fusion, really are the soul-infused personality when you are on the verge of the fourth degree. That's the point of maximum infusion. In the focus technique of duality, the focus is on the atmic permanent atom, and maybe there's some coordination of the atmic vehicle. Certainly after the third degree, there's some coordination of the Buddhic vehicle under Neptune. He says you don't really coordinate that Buddhic vehicle unless you have a strong Neptune. So what would it be for Atma? Strong Saturn? Strong Uranus? We're getting this sense of oneness, universalization, I call it, and growing identification as being. And maybe growing identification, perhaps I should be specific, as being. There comes a time when one wants to know what one really is, you know, and it's not enough to think of one's ahamkara, one's personality, one's separateness. One has to find the real thing, the no thing. Being, isness above all. Or, you know, fancy third-rate philosophical terms, ontological obtrusion, meaning that the factor of being is so obtrusive you can't miss it. We always miss it. It's the most obvious thing, but it's so obvious, as the mystics say, nearer than hands and feet, that we're missing it all the time, and our consciousness is pulled into multiplicity as if multiplicity were real, and we miss that all-pervading something which unifies it. So the closer we get into these, the more the synthesis petals are at work, the more we are able to not only sense being, but identify as being. All right, so that takes care of the actory process, evolution, ambition, and you know, I'm just gonna change all this around. I just feel, you know, invite you into my self-corrective process, selfish integration, ambition, futility, alignment, crisis, light. What should come first now? Light. Repulse or revelation, revelation or repulse. Integration. Fusion, duality, initiation, universalization or synthesis perhaps, and finally identification. Identification is the ultimate, and when we achieve the isolated unity of the Master, we have that identification. Meanwhile, you know, we're like divers who have been immersed at a great level, and we're rising fast, hopefully not getting the bends on the way. We're rising fast towards the place where we can really breathe the life. The cosmic etheric planes where the nature of what we are is revealed to us. We're so immersed in the dense physical vehicle of the planetary logos and solar logos inherited from a previous solar system that we've just forgotten what we are. As monads we know. So the rediscovery of what we are is essential. Now, let's take a look. I'll move this lovely little image over here to the side. And we talked lastly in this particular chart about the senses. What world do we live in? And I wonder, having a little trouble finding this. Well, I thought I could find it and make it smaller, but maybe this will be sufficient. Which world do we live in, you know? The world of the senses, world of sentiency or feeling, world of lower mind, world of personality transitioning to the world of meaning, world of personality transitioning to the world of meaning, and then in petal number 7, world of meaning, meaning transitioning to significance via the antakarana, same, petal 9, meaning transitioning to significance, and the initial touch of the world of being. We're still meaning to significance because we really don't have significance until we're free within the triad, unencumbered by all of our accumulations from working in the quarries of life, working in the lower 3 worlds. So basically, you know, the Lemurian man is very sense-bound. There's not even sentiency there. In petal 2 we discovered the Atlantean man, and he has all kinds of sentiency growing as the petal is organized, coordinated, vitalized, unfolded, open, unfolded, maybe perfected after that. Then petal number 3 and its work brings us into the world of lower mind, but not yet the world of personality. Because interestingly, we don't really begin to integrate the personality until petal 4. At least that's the way I see it at the present time. That's the world of personality. But remember, the solar angel begins to be the down-gazing soul in petal 5. Maybe not at first, but eventually so. Lots of danger in petal 5, I think, because it's so possible to overemphasize the ahamkara, and which would block the way to initiation. So this is the world of personality trending towards the world of meaning as one becomes an aspirant. Trending, let me put it, you know, that way. Towards meaning. And in petal number 6, personality trending more towards meaning. And by the time we reach that first initiation petal, which is number 7, with its reflex effect on petal 5 and 6, we're in the world of meaning. Where the antakarana is not yet really being built. Only the first stage of the antakarana from, you could say, from the mental unit to the egoic lotus. That's not the antakarana as we usually study it into the impersonal worlds. It's the antakarana into the supra-personality, we might say, the transpersonal self, still based upon quality accumulated in the lower worlds. But when we reach the 8th petal with its so much of its Mercury significance, the world of significance depends upon the spiritual triad, and we have a way into the spiritual triad now because we're really building the antakarana. So trending towards significance, and I will say of petal number 9 that building of the antakarana continues, and the power to use the abstract mind continues. We're really, you know, even the abstract mind is just the lower part of the world of significance. It's not really in the cosmic ethers. And then we continue towards the world of significance because you can't really say you live in it until the egoic lotus is no longer present. So, and the Egoic Lotus most definitely is present with petals number 10, 11, and 12. But let's just say there's a new something on the horizon that's the world of being. So the world of significance trending strongly. I'll put that in. Strongly towards the world of significance. When you know the significance of something, you know where it fits and what its direction is in terms of the direction of the divine will and purpose. So meaning is a bit more static. It's the relationship between things as they are, and maybe even archetypally, but it's not the relationship of a thing towards the destiny of the whole. And that would be the true significance of something. So, and we're beginning to touch the world of being. The monad lives in the world of being. And the monad is the father aspect, and the father aspect has made its impression at the third initiation and continues to make its impression stronger and stronger. So we are touched then by the monad in the world of being. Now, the ultimate world of causes is found on the logoic plane, and about that we're not speaking yet. Nor are we speaking about a very strong touch of the monad. It just gets stronger. It does bring about the destruction of the egoic lotus, and so that's got to be a really strong touch. And the master has the illumination of the monad, the revelation of what the monad can reveal, but it's only the 6th degree initiate who is fully and consciously, once again, the monad, rather than identifying with lower states. So I think this gives us an idea of where we are. So many of us have to work in the world of meaning, initiates of the 1st and 2nd degree and all that. We have to understand the meaning of things through spiritual discernment. We have to exercise a spiritual reading. We have to look at the world in symbolic terms. Everything being simply a symbol of a greater pattern, greater and more subtle pattern. So that's where most of us are working at the present time, and as we build the Antikarana, we can trend towards the world of significance, which is a completely impersonal world, and we have entered the lower part of the mind, heart, and will of our planetary logos. If we wanted to enter the higher part, we'd have to go onto the cosmic planes, which we're not capable of doing. So, okay, so this is, I have now reviewed this thing called races. And of course there's been more to it than races. I'll just make it small again, smaller, so everyone can see it. And it has, I think, some valuable information. If you proceed with your correlations, pure reason will result. We arrive at these correlations through reasoning, but the result is pure reason, eventually, which is equivalent to one of the forms of intuition, to Buddhic impression. Maybe it begins more in the 8th petal, continues in the 11th, and becomes very strong after the destruction of the egoic lotus causal body at the 4th degree. Now sometimes, let's see what we've got here. The next one is called chakras, and we've done so much work on the chakras that I hesitate in a way to get too much into this. I'll just take a look and see what is worth repeating. There are just so many different chakric triangles that can be operative at the different stages of evolution, and there are so many that are overlapping. So I might have the tendency perhaps to leave some of these columns without an exhaustive discussion. So I think we can move on and do a little more. This is about the chakras, and as I stated, I may not go into this exhaustively. It is really, if we look at petal number 1, let's see if we can make this a little bigger. I wonder if that's possible. I'm not sure it is. Chakras, okay. Races. Come on now. Okay. So, yeah, if we try to make this a little bigger, we do that. And that will, of course, cut off a lot of the chart, but it will at least make bigger what we have to look at. There are in these charts some duplications I see, and some columns seem to repeat themselves, hopefully with similar information. The chakric triangle for the first petal, base of the spine, of course, sacral center, spleen. The base of the spine, simply for survival, sacral for procreation, spleen for vitality. And notice what we've tried to do here. I'm going to bring this down and hopefully, yeah. Okay, I'm going to bring this down and hopefully, right. It will be somewhat visible. I have tried to assign these chakras on the basis of aspect 1, 2, and 3. So in this case, the base of the spine, aspect 1, sacral center, aspect 2, in terms of bringing the two together, and spleen, vitality. Now the pranic triangle is also important in the Lemurian phase, because it's an extremely vital period. The shoulder center, the center near the diaphragm, really above it, and the spleen, again. And they operate on the 1, 2, and 3 basis. The shoulder center, lower part of the shoulders, ray 1. Near the diaphragm above it, ray 2, and spleen, ray 3. If we get into petal 2, the base of the spine, sacral center, and solar plexus, because emotion begins to play a greater role, and the emotional life in its own right, and not only tied to instinctual gratification. So let's see here. Right. So that in this case, again, the base of the spine, basically a plutonic center, a lot of ray 1 for that, sacral center, ray 3, the production of form, solar plexus, emotion, ray 2. Now, and even into the second petal, well, average man is pretty much the lotuses of passion and desire. Not the Brahmic lotuses or lotus of Brahman. They are not actually average man. Average man controlled from the astral plane, the base of the spine, ray 1, and I guess in parentheses it means and or 3. Solar plexus, ray 3 and or 2, and the heart, ray 2 and or 1. So these are some alternatives. In every triangle, the first, second, and third aspects are represented. So the base of the spine, ray 1, basically solar plexus. In this case, ray 3, and the heart, ray 2. Or the alternative, base of the spine, ray 3, it is connected with the fires of matter. Solar plexus, ray 2, heart as the major center, ray 1. Another possibility here, the sacral center, solar plexus, and heart for average man. Sacral center still active, solar plexus strong, heart still strong. So sacral ray 3, solar plexus 2, heart 1. Or solar plexus, heart, and sacral throat. So solar plexus, the emotion, the heart, the general vitalization, and the throat, the growing intelligence. Now, primary lotuses, we might call them sort of mechanical man with a lot of ray 5, probably a group coming from Vulcan, base of the spine, sacral center, and throat. They don't have the solar plexus development. So there are many possible combinations here. Now and man is increasingly controlled from the mental plane. Now DK on page, what does he do here? On page 170 of Cosmic Fire, he gives us man control from the mental plane. He calls it the base of the spine, the heart, the throat. Ray 1, Ray 2, Ray 3. At least that's an estimation. And man, also in petal 3, could be considered controlled from the mental plane, but with ray 4 increasingly controlled by the personality. And I think I should put that in here. By that center, it's still a mental center, which we call the personality. Now, man partially controlled by the ego, advanced man. Throat, solar plexus, heart, and the head, that is the ajna and 4 lesser centers, and their synthesis, the alta center. So let's just take a quick look here at Cosmic Fire, page 170, and we'll just get that, confirm that. The advanced man, the heart, the throat, and the head. That is the 4 lesser centers and their synthesis, the alta major. At the 5th petal, there is some egoic intervention. Advanced man is also here. He has to have intelligence. He has to have the heart center. It's been active in all of these, but the solar plexus for his drive is still there. So we look at that as a related system: solar plexus, heart, and the head. We can look at this as the ajna and the 4 lesser centers and their synthesis, the alta center. And that has to be understood, ALTA. Right. Because, you know, advanced man has to be directed by the ajna center, but it's not the too many petaled lotuses. It is simply the personality directing center. So there's various ways to make this combination depending on the rays of the advanced man, but the throat center is very important. Something for the drive and the desires, so solar plexus and heart, and then either substituting the 4 lesser centers and their synthesis, the alta, or just looking at the ajna as directing the entire process. And this is the alta center. I see there's been a mistake there. Not sure how it happened, but the alta major, major center. So we're still dealing now with advanced man, and there are different phases of advanced man. If we simply look at him in one perspective, we have the heart, the throat, and the ajna center, simply directing the personality. Then from another point of view, we have the, let's say, the throat, the ajna, and the 4 lesser centers ending in 5 of the head centers. So it's pretty complicated there, actually. Let's just see. Here is, we're talking about the 6th petal, the head, the ajna, that is the ajna and the 4 lesser centers, and their synthesis, the alta major center, and the, well, you know, it can be the heart or the throat center. It gets complicated. It really depends on the particular energy configuration of the individual. how this will work out. Because, you know, he is heading for the first initiation. The heart has to be important. The intelligence is very important. The 4 of the head centers, maybe 5 of the head centers eventually coming in at the first initiation. So I think there's a lot of variability here, and, you know, probably each person is unique in terms of the kind of triangle that is majorly activated. That's why I was a little hesitant to get into this maze, you know. But anyway, we're getting to the 7th petal, which is spiritual man, because he's taking the first initiation after he has expended some strenuous and abnormal effort. So spiritual man to the 3rd initiation is the heart, the throat, and the 7 head centers. And another suggestion possibly, that the sacral, throat, and heart are vivified. The sacral connecting with the mental elemental and its elevation to the throat at the first initiation. Then, you know, we still have the general idea of spiritual man to the 3rd initiation, because the 7th, 8th, and 9th petal are all of that. So, some possibility here, ajna, heart, and throat. Part of the head is implied, maybe 6 of the centers with their synthesis, the alta. The solar plexus and throat center vivified, because there's transference from the solar plexus to the throat. So, solar plexus to the heart, rather. So the ajna directing the personality in one way, the solar plexus rising to the heart for the 2nd initiation, the throat for creativity, or, you know, if we want to look at this in another way, well, we'd have to leave out a certain center, I'm not sure which, but there are 6 head centers in the process of vivification, and probably 7 by the time we reach the 9th petal, where we can look at the, what is possible here, the ajna, 7 head centers with the throat center waning, and the crown. And the heart, 7 head centers, and the 2 many-petaled lotuses. That would be spiritual man after the 3rd initiation and going towards the 5th initiation. The heart, the 7 head centers, now 7, and the 2 many-petaled lotuses in part. So let's take a look here. Spiritual man to the 3rd, spiritual man to the 5th. The heart, the 7 head centers, and the 2 many-petaled lotuses considered as one in their interrelation. There are really, well, a number of chakras are involved there, but the 2 many-petaled lotuses are considered in their interrelation. And we want to say that also for petal number 11, the heart, 7 head centers, 2 many-petaled lotuses, in part, because, you know, they are not fully unfolded, really. If you think about it, it's in the Maya Varupa that the full unfoldment really occurs. The full unfoldment of the 1,000-petaled lotus on the base of the spine, purpose at the base of the spine, purpose at the crown center. That's really a Maya Varupic event, or if somehow someone sustains the same body into the 5th initiation, maybe they have it that way. So there are just, as stated here, chakra information differs slightly from other tables, from table to table, and they're all correct, and they don't contradict each other, and we just have to understand why they are listed as they are. Well, that is the difficult one, I think, because there are so many possible chakric triangles, and certain each member of a particular, let's say, highly illumined triangle can be a member of another triangle which is perhaps less illumined. I'm not sure that we really need to get into column 2, because I'm not sure of the information that it really confers. I would have to review that. We only begin with petal number 5, astrological triangles, Earth, Mars, Pluto, with Venus behind the scenes. So it's interesting that Earth, Mars, and Pluto would represent the personality with Venus as the solar angel. Probably that is what is suggested. Let's turn to page 507 and 508 of Esoteric Astrology and see Earth, Mars, and Pluto. 507 and 508. Well, all of these are Earth, Mars, and Pluto, possibly Venus behind the scenes. So we kind of, I think I simply put them together on the basis of what was stated here, with Earth, Mars, and Pluto definitely having a strong connection to the lower quaternary. It depends on how we want to do that. Mars can be the astral body, Pluto the mental body, Earth the physical body. That's one way of doing it. There's just so many different combinations. We have to discover what is relevant. We seem to be here at the seventh petal with the next reference, Cancer, Aries, Capricorn, Esoteric Astrology 474, Gemini, Sagittarius, Mercury in relation to Sirius. Well, I'll tell you what, let us just say that these can be studied. I think I've gone into it in sufficient depth already. Cancer, Aries, Capricorn. I'm just curious, page 474 of Esoteric Astrology. Let's see if there's something particular here, and it looks like we have a figure. Aha. Cancer, Aries, Capricorn. I see cycle 1. I see how this is working out. Cycle 1, and then Gemini, Scorpio, Virgo. This would be cycle 2, and Capricorn, Virgo, Leo, cycle 3. Let's see if I brought these into the picture. Gemini, Sagittarius, Mercury in relation to Sirius, Scorpio, Taurus, Pisces. All of these are relevant, and I've gone over them in my work with Esoteric Astrology book. Aries, Libra, and the Sun in relation to Sirius. These are interesting triangles for sure. We do have Aries, Leo, and the Sun in relation to the Great Bear. When the will aspect comes in, you know, that's on page 50 of Esoteric Astrology. And then here's page 466. Let's check it out. These things are getting a little bit obscure. Okay, Aries, Libra, and the Sun. They are an expression of the Great Bear, which brings about the focusing of the life energy. So it's not so much Sirius as it is the Great Bear. And I better put that in. Although, you know, Sirius is very, very strong at the third initiation, just as Venus is. Venus is, in a way, the lower octave of Sirius. That triangle, Venus, heart of the Sun, Sirius. Okay. Now, I think I've only listed those. And that's enough, because we don't want to be overwhelmed by possibilities. We did talk about the various paths and how we're on the path of evolution for the first 3 petals, and how intelligent man emerges really at the 4th. He's partially integrating. And then at petal number 5, intelligent man, advanced man, the aspirant, advanced man, and I want to also put in creative man, and the path of aspiration at the end of petal 5. And then petal 7, true aspirants are coming in here. Well, I want to put in here probationers at petal 6. Definitely. And true aspirants have taken the first degree, and probationers continue in a way until accepted discipleship. Then there's the accepting disciples, the pledged disciples, and later the accepted disciples, all this coming in for at petal number 7 and ongoingly into petal number 8. Petal number 8, the probationary initiates, they are also in petal number 7 because true aspirants, having taken the first initiation, are probationary initiates. So second initiation, probationary initiates, also the advanced disciple, and well, the initiated disciple quite possibly, but certainly when we reach the 3rd degree, we have what's called the initiated disciple. So if we say initiated disciple in certain readings of the... Okay, now, 3rd initiation, the true initiated disciples, maybe they are called senior disciples also, and we're moving towards the 4th degree, and in general for petal 10, 11, and 12, it's initiation 3, moving towards the 4th degree. And that means when you are really concentrating upon the factor of synthesis after the 3rd degree. And as we're approaching the 4th degree, all synthesis petals functioning as a tier, and that's really important, open just before the 4th degree. They burst open just before the 4th degree, revealing the jewel in the lotus, revealing the diamond soul. And I've already dealt with the names of the lotuses, so I don't think I need to repeat that. But you know, we don't have lotuses in bud or bud lotuses, but we have those that one petal at least open. That we have. Whether they're fully unfolded or not, we don't know. 2nd petal lotuses of Brahman in the beginning part of that petal and that work, and lotuses of passion and desire later have unfolded the 2nd petal. That's later in the process, and are applying themselves to work in the 3rd. Primary lotuses in the 3rd petal, they're intelligent, but they have the 2nd petal shut, and we can see that they are sentiently unresponsive. And lotuses of passion and desire with focus in petal 3, acquiring more mind. Can I really say lotuses of passion and desire belong in the, when working in the 4th petal? I think it's a bit much. I think it's too far. So I'm just going to call them, as I have before, lotuses of integration. And then, you know, calling the group 5 lotuses of achievement. And when the 5th petal is fully unfolded, radiant lotuses with petal 5 fully unfolded, the term radiant lotus applies. With petal number 6, lotus purification and discipline. These are my own words, but that's, I think, what goes on there in this petal of self-correction. And with petal 6 fully unfolded, we have lotuses with perfume. But that entails work in the 8th petal, just as becoming a radiant lotus entails work in the 7th petal. So with the 7th petal and initiation having occurred, we have the radiant lotus with the, that's the first initiation with the 8th petal. And the 2nd initiation having occurred, we have the lotus with perfume. The 2nd ray magnetic essence is being given off and attracts people into group formation. And with the 3rd petal and the 3rd initiation having been taken, we have lotuses of revelation, and they exist in their initial stage with the full unfoldment of the sacrifice tier. As petals 1, 2, and 3 unfold, well, let's see, let's just say that petal number 10 is associated with the unfoldment of the outer tier and its perfection, and up to the unfoldment of the 5th petal. So really 5 petals are involved here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 complete. And then we have the Lotus of Revelation of the first order, where, because let's just say that this is all of this is post third initiation. So post third initiation. Petals number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are complete, and we have a Lotus of Revelation of the first order. With petal, when petal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are unfolded, we have the unfoldment of the synthesis petal of love. So that takes place at the 2nd degree, but this, however, is post third initiation, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and Lotus of Revelation of the 2nd order, and Lotus of Revelation of the first order. And finally, when all the sacrifice petals 7, 8, and 9 are unfolded, we have Lotus of Revelation of the 3rd order, up, and then with cultivation up to the bursting. With cultivation of synthesis up to the bursting. So I'm going to put that in with cultivation of synthesis up to the bursting. See, I just want to be very clear about this. When the 5th petal is completely unfolded, one synthesis petal, the synthesis petal of knowledge, unfolds somewhat. We don't know how far. When petal number 6 is completely unfolded, the 2nd initiation has taken place, and the 2nd synthesis petal of love unfolds somewhat. We don't know how far, and the 1st synthesis petal of knowledge continues to unfold. When we have the complete unfoldment of petals 7, 8, and 9, the 3rd initiation has been taken. The petal of synthesis will unfolds to a degree. The petal of synthesis love continues to unfold, and then the petal of synthesis knowledge continues to unfold. Then comes focus on the synthesis petals per se, through cultivating synthesis along one of 3 lines, either synthesis through knowledge, synthesis through love, or synthesis through will. All 3 modes of cultivating synthesis are actually simultaneously operative, but one receives the greatest influence or emphasis according, I think, to the monadic ray. So with that cultivation of synthesis along one primary line and 2 secondary lines, they continue to be vitalized and continue to unfold until there is a sudden bursting open of all 3, revealing the jewel in the lotus just before the 4th initiation. So the real, for the initial work, where the 1st synthesis petal unfolds to a degree, we have petal number 5 completely unfolded. For the next piece of work, where the next synthesis petal begins to unfold at the 2nd degree, we have petal number 6 completely unfolded. And when the final synthesis petal begins to unfold, we have petals 7, 8, and 9 completely unfolded. All of these are lotuses of revelation. to be a lotus of revelation began at the first degree. But these are, we might almost call them, we have lotuses of revelation, but here's an idea, can we call these types of lotuses of synthetic revelation? Because it's the synthesis or the unity which is revealed. And when we are in a position to make revelation of the monad, of the unity, then a high stage of evolution has been reached. And okay, so I hope that that is fairly clear. The synthesis petals have an initial unfoldment at each of the three initiations, emphasizing the first, the second, or the third, depending on the initiation. And then they have a specialized unfoldment because the person is actually working in the field of synthesis according to a particular emphasis, according to the ray. And while all of them will unfold and will burst open, there's one that receives more attention to the other, depending upon whether one is a first, second, or third ray monad, or a monad connected either with the first, second, or third ray. Gets a little bit intricate up there, but we'll know more about that when we're in the midst of it, or when we have the ability to withdraw because we've passed through that stage and can now see it with greater objectivity. All right, now when it comes to stages of the path, I think I've dealt with that. I don't have anything right here. Basically, I have dealt with the stages of the path, in various ways. And in general, you have, the stage of evolution, ambition, the stage of ambition fails and aspiration takes its place, then probationer. The aspiration begins in petal 5 at the end, probationer more in petal number 6 because you're really more serious. Probationary initiate number 1 in petal 7, probationary initiate number 2 in petal 8, full initiate in petal number 9, and meanwhile the path of real discipleship has begun at the first initiation. Accepted discipleship has begun between the first and second initiations at some point, and sometimes a little bit later. And then probationary initiation continues until true initiation occurs. Then the man becomes the advanced disciple. And then he goes on and becomes the advanced initiate after the destruction of the causal body. Well, I'm not writing all that down, but I think I have in various places. I've done the various groups, human groups, 10 soul groups. The groups 1 and 2, quite instinctual. Group 3, very emotional. Group 4, having a little mind. Group 4, for the third petal, having a little mind, but group 5 having more mind and some specialized types, such as the primary lotuses in there. Intelligent man is found in group 5, but he's a bit of a sheep because he has not yet really integrated his personality and emerged from the mass. Group 6, these are the achievers, and they become aspirants, and petal number 7, the achievers and aspirants continue, and probationary discipleship in the late 6th petal. I think that's what we're dealing with here, aren't we? Yeah. All right, with group 7, we have probationary disciples up to a point. But group 8 comes in the middle to later phase of petal 7 work, and we become practical mystics, the true disciples. And eventually, in petal 8, we're likely to become accepted disciples. So group 8 continuing from the middle to a later phase of petal 7 and practical mystics, and then disciples and accepted disciples. Continue from the middle to later phase of petal 8, practical mystics, true disciples, accepted disciples. I think we have to have also group 8. Let's check that out. This is, we look at all of these, and we have Esoteric Psychology, and we'll turn to page 203 in Esoteric Psychology, and group 8, the souls, they're really treading the path of discipleship, practical mystics or occultists of modern times. So they definitely have to be listed here. Group 8, yes. Continuing from the middle to later phase of petal 7, but they are in petal 8, practical mystics, true disciples, and they are accepted disciples. That is correct. And then group 9, the initiates, concluding with the complete opening of the 9th petal, and initiates continue. Group 9 continues through the development of the synthesis petals. Group 10 is not yet with us because they are the true masters. And, okay, so somehow I've listed this 10 soul groups numerous times. I think what's important here, notice here below, all the rules for applicants are here listed. Let's see. I wonder. The hour has come for making application to stand before the door. Let's see. This is kind of hard to see. I wonder if I make it a little smaller. Yeah, there. All right. So they're all listed. A little difficult to see, but and then the rules, the group rules, basically for disciples and initiates, and they are longer. And I wonder if how small I'd have to make them for them to be completely visible. Oh, this is entirely too small. Nobody can see that. Anyway, just go into the rays and initiations and you'll find them. But what's important in this tabulation is perhaps to look at when they come in. And I would say that at petal 5, as we're becoming aspirants, the rules for applicants can be initially considered. Let's say rules for applicants more seriously considered at petal 6, and rules for applicants seriously considered. And I would say that goes all the way through, because these particular rules somehow have application all the way to the 3rd degree. So I'm going to include them for petals number 7, 8, and 9. Okay, let's see if I can. Okay, 7, 8, and 9. Now, when can we really consider with any degree of profit the group rules, the rules for disciples and initiates? And I would say when we get to petal 7, we can consider the rules for disciples and initiates initially. When we get to petal 8 with its second initiation, I'm going to change this around a little bit and say that in petal 8, the rules for disciples and initiates can be seriously considered in a preliminary way. Now, there is a second initiation kind of reflection, basically for rules to begin at the third degree. However, at the third degree in petal number 9, rules for disciples and initiates can be considered practically, though not those pertaining to the fourth degree and beyond. And this I continue to say all the way through petals 10, 11, but in 12 I say rules for disciples and initiates can be considered practically, including rules for the impending fourth degree. But there are some rules actually which seem to deal with the fifth degree, and they cannot be considered in terms of the egoic lotus. It strikes me that all of these technicalities that we're dealing with, at one point DK said, well, they don't really exist. All of the different methods and technicalities of the ageless wisdom are seen to disappear at a certain time, and their place is taken by straight experience. All these technicalities and divisions of thought are in a way a kind of scaffolding to approach a higher level of energy. Okay. Now, I'm not going to get into the stage of adaptation and the numbering of the human groups. For some reason, they continue to be repeated, and I'm not sure, whether I made the charts this way or not. Suffice it to say, we've gone over it enough, and these appear to be repeats. So what we've looked at, particularly in this particular chart, is the certain chakra triangles, and something new we attempted was to look at the chakras in terms of their identification with the first, second, or third aspect. When you think about it, the seventh ray can be identified with the first aspect and sometimes rarely with the third. The sixth ray with the second aspect or the third aspect. The fifth ray with the first aspect, but sometimes rarely with the third. The fourth ray with the second aspect or the third. But generally it simplifies things to look at these chakra triangles in terms of 1, 2, and 3. And there are different ways of conceiving them. And one chakra can represent the first, let's say it can represent the first aspect in one triangle, and the second aspect in another, and the third aspect in yet another triangle. So everything is shifting and very relative, and everything depends on the stage of evolution at which we find ourselves. From another perspective, we could say that these the functions of the chakras mutates over time. Planets are chakras in a larger system, and their function mutates over time. The human being can be a chakra in a smaller group, and its function can mutate over time. Just imagine a human being being on the periphery of an ashram, very, very peripheral and non-essential, moving into greater ashramic intimacy, perhaps becoming one of 7 foundational points within a particular ashram, upholding a particular sub-ray of the ashram, and then eventually becoming one of 3. The chakra function obviously is changing all the time, and then becoming the master himself of his own ashram, who takes the place of the monad, so to speak, of his own ashram. So the relativity of chakra function over time is something we want to take into consideration. DK is always specific. This arrangement holds at this particular world period. For this particular, I would say, like Platonic year. During this particular eon, during this particular round, But there's a constant mutation of relation, a Geminian kind of idea. And nothing is permanently in a particular place of relationship. its meaning within the whole is always changing, because meaning is all about a special, a designated relationship of a particular item within the context of a whole. And when the position changes, when the relationship changes, the meaning changes. So, you know, our minds cannot yet handle this incredible mutation of relation, but we just have to look at our normal personal individual life, and we see how we are one thing to one set of people, and another to yet another, and another, yet another to yet another, and we're still the same person, but our meaning within any particular context is always shifting. Okay, well, you know, enough said. I think you understand what I'm driving at here. So we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The petals and the senses, as I say, there's some repetition in all of these, and you know, when I detect repetition, I'm obviously not going to spend as long with it all. Petals and the senses, you know, it has some interesting things. I would say that the titles of these charts are not necessarily all-inclusive. Other things are included as well. I did talk about the signs of the zodiac, the 3 earth signs, Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo for petals 1, 2, 3. Then beginning cardinally, again, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces with 3 water signs for the petals of sentiency. And then with petals 7, 8, 9, one can begin Sagittarius, Leo, and Aries. I've justified that many times. Or one can begin Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. And finally with petals 10, 11, and 12, the air signs, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, but one could also operate with Libra. No? If we begin with Libra and we go to Aquarius, I don't think we're justified in ending with Gemini. So if we go with Libra first, then we're going clockwise if we reach Gemini, and then continuing clockwise with Aquarius. We've discussed that many times. We've discussed the halls, which by now we should be quite familiar with. Hall of Ignorance, Learning, and elsewhere I have been more careful. Learning towards wisdom, and then wisdom, wisdom, wisdom. And there is no such thing as the Hall of Synthesis, but maybe there's the Hall of Life or Hall of Being. DK hasn't given us this, but still all of this is the Hall of Wisdom. From the time we are taking the first initiation onwards. We've dealt with these: knowledge, 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 love, knowledge, sacrifice, love, knowledge, love, 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 sacrifice, sacrifice, knowledge, sacrifice, love, sacrifice, sacrifice. And then we've also dealt with what we call synthesis, knowledge, and then synthesis, love, and synthesis, sacrifice, or synthesis, will. So this is going to be synthesis, love, and then this should be synthesis, sacrifice, or will. By now, sacrifice, will. And by now, of course, you have a very good idea of that. And it's always good to have these kind of things memorized, because they can come in at any point and be of value. We've talked about the different crosses we're on. We're definitely on the fixed cross by the time we reach petal number 7, and we stay on the fixed cross. And we cannot say that we ever reach the cardinal cross, really. It's all, we dismount from the fixed cross at the third initiation, and we might say dismount and no cross. And we continue here. We're not really on the fixed cross anymore at petal number 11, no cross. And at petal number 12, even at the fourth initiation, no cross. Maybe anticipating, what the cardinal cross is like, but even at the fourth degree, we're not there. We've looked at the elements. All of that has been covered. We've looked at the planes that are involved. All of that has been covered. I'm not going to get into the many chakras. The same list, page 170 of Cosmic Fire, can be found around Esoteric Astrology 88. So I have dealt with these, and if they look like there are discrepancies from column to column in these different charts, well, maybe there are, but there are certainly a lot of possibilities. I've dealt with the organs of action and the organs of receptivity in terms of the yoga. But let's just say that it's only when one becomes an aspirant at petal number 5 and later in it, as an aspirant, the control of these organs is begun. And the 5 organs of receptivity, same here. The correct utilization. As an aspirant, the correct utilization of these organs is begun. And then, of course, they simply increase all the way through beyond the third initiation. And there are these phases of yoga. I'm not sure we have any. We've covered them, but you have to have, let us say, concentration. Let's see how these might look. I wonder if I have a place where that can be discussed. Maybe not. But I can just kind of go over it, As an aspirant, we have to learn to begin to concentrate. Petal number 5. So 5 organs of action. And I'll just kind of include this and phases of meditation. Okay, so if we're going to look here at concentration, we would put here meditation in petal 6. Now this is Dhyana, D-H-Y-N-A, D-H-Y-A-N-A, and Dharana, I think, is concentration. Okay. And let's see, the Pratyahara, I think we can find here. Of course, it could be considered anticipatory of any stage of meditation, but it also helps with contemplation. And let's just see the soul and its mechanism, the light of the soul. And we have, let's see if I have the mean of yoga here. Okay. Recent. Well, let's see. I think I'll just do it this way. Pratyahara. B-R-A. Pratyahara, there are 5, and Pratyahara abstraction. Attention is dharana. Well, okay, asana comes in here, and pranayama, and then pratyahara. So they seem to precede the actual concentration and meditation. So asana, pranayama, pratyahara. So we can put them here. Right attitude, asana. Wait a second. I think I've got a problem here. Okay. This is, let's see, let's go back a little further. Okay, dharana. So organs have begun, and we'll say that asana, pranayama, and pratyahara. Begun. Concentration or dharana begun. Now these continue, of course. You know, you have to maintain your asana. Your control of the vital airs becomes ever greater through pranayama, and your ability to abstract, that can lead all the way to the monad, actually. So all of these continue. In petal number 6, let's just say we add what's called dhyana. Okay, so begun concentration, and we add dhyana. We'll add dhyana, meditation. Okay, now when does real contemplation occur? They call it here samadhi, and it's a very final state, but let's just say contemplation begins very initially. Contemplation pursued. Contemplation engaged. And contemplation understood. And contemplation continues all through and beyond the synthesis petals, those days of cultivation, and beyond the destruction of the egoic lotus. So, but we want to say that true samadhi, not yet achieved, it's a very high state, okay, and has more to do with isolated unity and mastership. So I've filled those in a bit for us, but really until petal 5 is entered and the work in the later part of petal 5 has begun and the solar angel is really taking hold of things, then we don't have the application of the means of yoga. Nobody wants to do that before they realize there is a higher of the pairs of opposites. We've talked about the evolution of the senses. Of course, all these senses are involved in every level, but hearing is more Lemurian, touch is more Atlantean, sight is more Aryan. Taste can begin at petal number 4, and smell or discrimination between the soul and personality more at petal number 5. But remember that in terms of hearing, touch, sight, taste, and smell, they are operative from the very beginning, but we're looking for the broader categories now, and which particular sense will dominate a particular phase of unfoldment. For petal 6, idealism, it's a 6, right? Common sense and discrimination. Petal 7, the esoteric sense, intuiting what the soul knows begins, the voice of the silence speaks, spiritual discernment. Then petal 8, response to group vibration. Petal 9, the esoteric sense, and, Sagittarius for spiritual telepathy. And that's an important one, because that which comes from afar will be registered. When it comes to the, let's just say, Buddhic senses anticipated, but certainly not fully developed. And we have to say that for petal number 11 too. And for petal number 12, atmic as well as Buddhic senses anticipated. Well, we're laying out the chart here and sort of a sense of the timing of things, but the actual experience is another matter. Now I'll put this up here, get it out of the way. The astral chakras, I think we've dealt with that a bit, and eventually all will be involved. Just check out page 51 of Esoteric Healing and find, the meaning of that. We have discussed that, I think, in this series, so no sense to go over that again. I say little or none of the astral chakras because the astral plane is not very prominent for the Lemurian type. But the lower astral chakras, obviously, and the earlier petals, and eventually all of them are involved. And I would say the mental chakras begin unfolding in petal number 3, which is basically quite a mental petal. And by the time we reach the 5th petal unfoldment, the lower 4 mental chakras I would consider unfolded, and we're beginning to utilize the petals themselves as if they were chakric energy centers. We're told how energy comes from a particular petal and has a particular effect within the personality. So it's not as if we are only adding to the content of the causal body. The causal body, the egoic lotus, the petals are like power centers, which can have a particular effect upon our life. Okay. If you've only come in and are kind of looking at this section of the video book for the first time and have not done the preliminary work, all of this is going to seem like a jigsaw puzzle, quite confusing perhaps, but all of this has been prepared. Now, the petals, the means, the path, and truths. I'm only going to do part of this because here below are listed the 4 noble truths of Buddhism, the Noble Eightfold Path, the 8 means of yoga, which we've just reviewed, the 10 commandments in sort of the thou shalt not stage of man's unfoldment, the 8 beatitudes related to the atmic plane and having to do with all of the compensations and benefits that come to the one whose sense of values is correct and who forsakes lower satisfactions for the higher satisfactions. And here's something called the New 10 Commandments. I know it's just about invisible. And there's a statement written here from Externalization of the Hierarchy. Let's see what it says. The lines of cleavage between materialism and spirituality. As we now understand the terms have become increasingly clear, 2 things have tended to bring this about. First, the pronouncement of the 10 Commandments. These, though negative in their form and dogmatic in their attitude, have made the issues and the required attitudes adequately clear. Owing to the relatively low stage of the universal human intelligence at the time that they were given, and he's not saying when, it might have been Moses, 4,000 years ago, or it might have been much earlier. At the time they were given, they were expressed by the formula "thou shalt not," thus turning human attention to the material expression of material. Let's see. Wait a second. Expression of material tendencies. In the days to come, the Ten Commandments will be expressed in a reversed form, of which the Sermon of the Mount and the Beatitudes are the embryonic form. So Christ did reverse so much, and basically was the pivot point between the wisdom of the previous solar system and the wisdom of our solar system. And here, as we have had before, there is the discussion of the Five Commandments and the Five Commandments and the various that to which they refer, the astral, mental nature, physical nature, and the restraints or rules. All of this. Someone has tried to do 10 new commandments. We don't know whether these will be universally accepted. The Lord's Prayer is listed here. You'll have all of this. The 7 virtues, the 7 vices, and the way, I suppose, from vice to virtue. So when it comes to this, I'm not going to say very much. We have talked about the halls, and I keep on having to make these corrections. Learning to wisdom, wisdom, synthesis. We've talked about the types of petals. We've talked about the crosses. We've talked about the elements. And we've talked about the planes. So, it would be possible to insert these truths, the Noble Eightfold Path, the 8 means of yoga, and all of that, but not perhaps in a petal-by-petal manner. Maybe the petal-by-petal manner can apply to when concentration, when meditation really can begin, and when samadhi is finally achieved. But let's just say, in order to simplify all this, as I think I've done before, that when we reach the 5th petal, and after the fall, so to speak, and after the crash in which egotism is revealed as useless, we can become the aspirant. And from that time on, we begin to absorb the wisdom that is expressed in these great teachings. And I can only say that the realization of their value simply grows and grows and grows all the way through the cultivation of the synthesis petals and the completion of the egoic lotus and beyond. After all, remember, the Buddha taught arhats, or maybe applicants to the stage of arhat, but if he taught arhats, what does that mean? They were already 4th degree initiates. So I don't think I'm going to, go through the thankless task of trying to assign these to various petals. I can only say that the 10 Commandments can come in, even as early as the 2nd petal and give us all kinds of restraints on our desire nature, and can follow us all the way through to the petal of love for the astral plane when we begin to desire something higher. The Beatitudes really are understood beyond the 3rd initiation. They are an atmic emanation. and we are taught that on the lowest level of the atmic plane the Beatitudes originated. The samadhi of the eight means is not to be totally achieved while there is an egoic lotus. So we can begin our following the commandments and our restraints and purifications at the fifth petal, but all of this is going to continue beyond the destruction of the egoic lotus. And when it comes to the Noble Eightfold Path, ever more refined interpretations and applications of this can be instituted, applied, even beyond the destruction of the egoic lotus. So I think it would be foolish to try to find a one-to-one, petal-to-petal assignment here. Just get the idea of when it can be done. The Ten Commandments begin earliest to quell or restrain the desire nature, and these other realizations begin at the fifth petal and intensify through the period of initiation, and the Beatitudes is a great realization which comes, I think, after the third initiation. I mean, so much of what the Beatitudes seem to be will not be understood until we really have that higher perspective of the soul. So some marvelous descriptions of all of these, how the commandments are, three of them physical, one astral and one mental, and how the restraints have to do with the purifications, but they also rise into the higher levels where we are uniting with the higher aspects of ourselves. I think that would be then enough, given what I have talked about before. I don't see why we have to go into... Sometimes, you know, when you try to be too meticulous, you end up with what looks like a very detailed pattern, but it's filled with illusion, because we have separated one thing from another. We've separated things from each other which really cannot be separated. They just grow organically as a relationship, intensifying as we continue to evolve. But right here, you know, are all the rules, all the perceptions. Why is there suffering? What do we do about it? How do we achieve yoga? You know, what is our universal duty, and what are the restraints to which we must apply to ourselves, and what are the methods by which we achieve liberation in consciousness? What will we realize when we have achieved liberation in consciousness, according to the Beatitudes? And then, in terms of the shaping of the new commandments, I suppose many people will make their attempt to fashion these new commandments. Whether we can make all things correspond according to the law of correspondences, I cannot say for sure. But, you know, you look at all these vices: lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, pride. Most of them have a lot to do with the first tier and in the hall of ignorance. Maybe if the personality gets too strong in the early part of the fifth petal, some pride can enter at that point, and some envy, and maybe some greed. The very lowest of them seem to have more to do with the outer petals. And then from the time we really start to be an aspirant and onward, the 7 virtues will be built. So the Christian method was teaching important factors, and now we have greater and wider understanding of the system of energies into which those earlier indications can now fit. The next one, the petals, the fires, and the rulers. I think as I go through some of these, as I go through some of these later charts, I'm liable to discover that much of what they say has been covered in the earlier charts, but let us see, in fact, if that is the case. So the next one we have here is this chart called the petals, the fires, and the rules. So some of this, of course, will be repetition. I almost welcome the repetition at this point because I'm eager to get into the practical side of this, you know, how we can apply what we have learned. And, of course, it will take diligence on the part of everyone, finding their own way. Well, you know, this I had before. These are the signs, Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo, you know, earth, water, fire. You can reverse this fire either way. I've explained how. And maybe even reverse the air, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, but maybe Libra, Gemini, Aquarius, and that will be in the clockwise order. We've talked about the different halls. They seem to be somehow repeated here, and I don't know why, but they are. And learning towards wisdom, we've talked about all this. Towards wisdom. Then wisdom, synthesis, knowledge, and the different kinds of petals that there are, and their major category and subcategory, and the different crosses, and when the fixed cross really begins, and, well, dismounted from fixed, dismounted from fixed, and that is true of petal number 11 as well. We're not dismounted from fixed cross, and we're still dismounted from fixed, not on cardinal, not yet on cardinal cross. You have to take that fourth initiation on no cross except maybe on your own cross. Not yet. In other words, we form the cross at that point. The different elements are here. I think, you know, some of these earlier ones are just given for orientation. The planes are here as well. And then, well, here Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are mentioned. Obviously, the first three petals, from a certain point of view, are Brahma. They are Brahma. The third aspect of divinity. And, you know, it's pretty obvious how it will go. The next three petals are the Vishnu petals. And really, you know, Vishnu has to continue. Vishnu continues. So Shiva is sacrificial, but I'll say Vishnu and incipient Shiva. Because it's the first aspect. But the first aspect does come in at the ninth petal, and as the monad is appreciated, Vishnu and received Shiva. And we'll say Vishnu and the continued growth of Shiva. That's what we have. And, you know, it's not, the Shiva power really comes in with the destruction of the causal body. Shiva fuller at the destruction of the egoic lotus, causal body. Yes. So, you know, if this is the soul we're talking about with the egoic lotus, so obviously the Vishnu aspect is the most important. And even when we're talking about the knowledge petals, it's the it's the Vishnu aspect, but sub Brahma That's really how it works. We've got the rules for magic here, too. We've got some marvelous correlations that my colleague BL has brought into the picture. But, you know, perhaps we cannot fully correlate them at this time, but just suggest ways of going. The three gunas, you know, tamas inertia, rajas activity, sattva rhythm. Obviously, the knowledge petals have a lot of tamas in them. And we might say, if we're looking for subcategories, tamas sub tamas. And the second petal would be tamas sub rajas, basic inertia of and non-appreciation of the higher of the pairs of opposites. We just are unitary in our mind. We are separate, we are what we seem to be. And sattva, tamas sub sattva. And the fourth petal, well, if I was to stick to the proper method of doing this, it would be a rajas petal, but it would be rajas sub tamas. And this would be a double rajas petal. Interesting that the love petal is double rajas. And he tells us the difference between Shambhala and hierarchy. Hierarchy is a very vortex of movement, whereas there's much more tranquility and peace in Shambhala. And rajas sub sattva. And rajas is giving way to sattva, sattva sub rajas, and finally in the ninth petal, well, do we ever really get to sattva as a human being who has not yet destroyed the causal body? And because really, at the fourth initiation, we have the equilibrized atoms. So the fourth initiation gives us balance, harmony, and destruction. So we can say that. Fourth initiation gives us truer sattva, balance, equilibrium, and destruction of the causal body. So we can just say of these synthesis petals moving towards truer sattva, and the same here, moving towards truer sattva. And I suppose we could put in the subcategories, you know, sattva sub tamas, sattva sub rajas, sattva sub sattva. Okay. Well, I think we all know, many of us are in the rajasic state. We are moving rapidly towards a more complete and proper life. We've overcome sloth, inertia, and all that kind of thing. But we haven't yet achieved the true rhythmic spiritual life, ritualized life, you might say, that hierarchy itself has achieved. They know the times, they know the cycles, and in their own place they exercise these things. When it comes to the fires, of course, fire by friction, very much so for the first three petals. Friction to solar fire, as the two pairs of opposites are facing each other. For the fourth petal, friction to solar fire. For the fifth petal, solar fire pronounced. And friction to solar fire pronounced. Again. Now solar fire is emerging at the first initiation. That's what the initiation is all about. Solar fire and solar fire full at the ninth petal. Trending to electric fire, and let's just say in all petals 10, 11, and 12, solar fire trending towards increasing electric fire. Because once the father aspect comes in at the third initiation, we do have the presence of the monad electric fire, but really the fullness of solar fire occurs at the fourth initiation, where the heart is the ruler. So we're not really going to get full expression of electric fire, full expression, until we are actually the master. So the fourth initiation has so much to do with love and solar fire. It's a love that cannot be encompassed by the egoic lotus. So when we are a master, we have a high expression of solar fire. When we're a Chohan, we have, electric fire. When we're a Chohan, we really have the expression of electric fire. Now, let's see what this next category is. I'm always surprised by them. 3 advanced themes of meditation. They're just not relevant. Not relevant in all of these places. Not relevant. Not relevant. Whoop. Even at petal number 6, the advanced theme, not relevant. Petal number 7, not really. Not yet. So we can start at petal number 8, inclusive reason and isolated unity. Well, I would say maybe at petal number 7, start, petal number 7, start presented attributes. Because it's a service petal, we're using all we have accumulated for the welfare. Start presented attributes, which continues, of course. Start inclusive reason and isolated unity, and isolated unity, inclusive reason, so strong that attributes can be presented. Okay, that's good. And then this just continues. All three higher themes can be practiced and the results expressed. So I'll just put that down for all 3. We're certainly closer to, in the Buddhic petals, we're certainly closer to inclusive reason than we are before that time. And when we're in these petals fed by the spiritual triad, we're closer to isolated unity. Not the real thing, not the full thing, not by any means, not yet. But closer. We have to divest ourselves of that kind of isolated individuality, which the causal body actually is. It's an isolated transpersonality. We have to be rid of that before we can enter the full meaning of all of these. I mean, if the Christ himself is presenting attributes, as is the Buddha, as is Plato, and these are masters and beyond, so really we have the fullness later. And the Christ, as he realizes inclusive reason, and let's say a first-ray master like Master Morya, as he realizes isolated unity, is far beyond anything that can be achieved in the period when the causal body still exists. Okay. Well, let's see, the 15 councils, they are below, and they are so good. 15 councils and 15 rules. Well, the councils found are on page 473, I think. Somewhere in, they really are all about cleaning up our act. They are kind of like the 10 Commandments for esotericists. And I can only say that they cannot be applied petal by petal. I can only say that from the time the later part of the 5th petal is operative and we are aspirants, we are progressing to intensify our expression of these pieces of advice. So by the time we are true initiates of the third degree, we really should have achieved these. But when it comes to the 15 rules for magic, we really can't begin this until we are initiates of the first degree at the seventh petal. And it's only when we're initiates of the third degree that we can practice these things practically. And only when we're initiates of the fifth degree that we can be, at least in my view, true white magicians for whom all of these 15 rules make real sense. So basically what I'm going to do is say, start practicing counsels here and intensify to the third degree, at which time all of these counsels should be well under our belt. And when it comes to, let's see, now what is that? Okay, so now we're in the seventh petal. Start studying the rules for, and I'll make this just a little, can I make it just a little smaller? Maybe I'm not going to be able to do that. Yeah, studying the rules for white magic. And then at petal number 9 in the third degree, become a practicing white magician step by step. And let's just say for 10, 11, 12, increase your capacity for practical white magic. And I'll put that down for all of these 10, 11, and 12. But you'll see what I'm going to do. Probably already know what I'm going to do or say. What I'm going to say is, you're not the full white magician until the egoic lotus is gone. And it's the ego as the triad that is speaking, and the monad is having its expression. And you're directly in touch with the divine plan. So that will mean the true white magician. But you know, so many of us who've taken up the study of white magic, we know that it's ahead of us. We do not have all the faculties we need. We don't have the way of directing all these forces through clear vision of the eye of Shiva. And even when the eye of Shiva, between the first and third initiation, the eye of Shiva is continually growing, and it's going to grow beyond the third initiation too, so we're always going to get better and better at it, but right now we're simply learning. So I will not say that you know, for the physical plane, and I can't look at the physical petals and say you can perform the physical rules for white magic, or the astral petals, and say, now the astral can be performed, or the mental, now the mental, because we're actually working from the top down, and until we're really in touch with the soul, it's the white magic of the soul, none of this really has relevance to us. Now, the next one has to do with the petals, the lights, and the keynotes. And here below, we have the astrological keynotes, you know, Aries, let form again be sought, Taurus, let struggle be undismayed, and so forth, or Aries, I come forth, and from the plane of mind I rule, and Taurus, I see, and when the eye is opened all is light, or all is illumined, and so forth. And the different lights of the zodiac. They are marvelous, and at the full moon meetings we do give attention to these different lights. Now I think the way to do this is to make this bigger at first. and then see what is repetition and what is not. You know, we've, I guess I little realize how much astrology I tend to throw into things, and some of my colleagues who are inclined differently in the Ageless Wisdom remind us of how much the University of Seven Rays and Morya Federation tend to emphasize astrology, just maybe almost excessively, and maybe rayology. And, you know, it's my particular bias, and naturally it impresses upon the organizations that I've helped to establish. But there are, you know, many different ways of looking at things. So I was just telling a very good esotericist the other night, I said, look, you don't have to be an astrologer. There's enough of us running around here. You have a fantastic knowledge of theosophy, and we're deficient in that. So let's have mutual supplementation here. Well, here we are again, you know, looking at some of these things that were repeated. Here's all of the, it's almost like this is kind of the 1, 2, 3 of everything, gives us the way to start, and the different halls we're in, and I always feel I have to change this and to say learning, trending towards, because sometimes, you know, you think the Hall of Wisdom begins right at the first initiation, but DK seems to say that from the time a person is an advanced man and maybe has been reversing the wheel initially at petal number 5, that already he's entering into the Hall of Wisdom, or certainly is in the antechamber of the Hall of Wisdom. And here are all the different types. We've done that before, and the different crosses. I guess these are the, you know, we can only do this so much, you know. Maybe I have to go back here and see what I've written, dismounted from the, dismounted, one more, do I dare? Oh, I did, okay. All right, not yet on the cardinal. So I want to just make life a little easier here, a little law of economy. And, you know, we're in number 10, and we can say dismounted from the fixed cross and dismounted from the fixed cross. I keep on wanting to make all of these correct, you know, or correct enough. No, and then we go back one more, and dismounted from the fixed cross, not yet. On the cardinal, you're on your own cross, so to speak. Here we are. And I think I'll say so. On your own cross. That seems to be the way it actually is. And here are the elements, and here are the planes. But now, written in blue, it seems to be the new stuff. So what are the zodiacal lights? Well, see, here's the thing. We can't really talk about these lights being significant to our consciousness until we are spiritually inclined. So I'm going to say so. We cannot speak of these lights being significant to our consciousness until we are at least aspirants, because otherwise it's just going to be matching up a particular light with a particular sign, and that won't work. But you know, if I can speak of it a little bit, I'd say, okay, the light of initiation. Aries is always bringing us in to initiation, but this is Capricorn, perhaps. The penetrating light of the path, well, let's get on the path first, and certainly we are on the path by the first initiation. The light is increasing for Taurus. The blended dual light of Virgo, This is the integrating soul personality. And it's different from the light of Gemini. It's less oscillating. The light within the form, well, it's certainly there before we are really aspirants, but it is going to be brought forward into radiance by Vulcan and by the application of soul light. The light of day, glamour and illusion will end, and we'll rise onto the Buddhic plane. So, it's more an eighth petal kind of thing, and going on even beyond that. The light of the world, I am the light of the world, and this has to do with a stage even beyond the 12th petal, when the Christ has taken the 5th initiation and even the 6th, and makes this tremendous pronouncement. When we become aspirants, a beam of focused light in Sagittarius is very important, but we become one-pointed disciples and probationary initiates. It's very important. The light of the soul beginning to show from the 5th degree and climaxing at the 9th petal. Now, what did I say? 5th degree, that's wrong. The light of the soul showing at the 5th petal. And the light of life itself is Aries, and that's coming in more as we go to the synthesis petals and the 12th petal, but it isn't real until beyond that point. The light of interplay, we're an aspirant, we're a probationary disciple, and the interplay between the higher and lower pairs of opposites is constant. The light that moves to rest, we make an important decision at the 5th petal and again at the 8th petal. At the 5th petal, we decide to go for the higher of the pairs of opposites. At the 8th petal, we pass the temptations and move along the Syrian path of initiation. The light that shines on earth across the sea, it's a high initiation, let's say, and we see that from a position of service at the 9th petal or in the synthesis petals. But you see, we cannot really talk about these lights related to petals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth. That's not possible. So I hope in reading this we understand that. The keynotes, the negative keynotes of the signs should not continue up through the petals, you understand. I don't have time to rearrange that now, but you understand what I mean. If I say let ambition rule and the door stand wide, I'm talking about the 4th and 5th, early 5th petal, and not really after, unless it's spiritual ambition. Let struggle be undismayed. This is going on for the Taurian individual all the way up to the 5th petal and maybe beyond. Let matter reign. It's the petals of ignorance under Virgo. Matter is not going to reign except in the petals of ignorance, the petals of knowledge. Let isolation be the rule, and yet the crowd exists. This will operate in the early petals when man's consciousness is immersed in matter. And so it will be with all of these. Let Maya flourish and deception rule until the light of the solar angel really starts to bring in the deglamorization, the disillusionment that is possible. Go forth into matter, its very early petals. Maybe the Pisces approach to petal number 1. Let food be sought, the hunter in petal number 1, and also in petal number 2. But it's like let satisfaction be sought. Let other forms exist, I rule because I am. It climaxes in the early part of petal number 1, where we have the dominant personality selfishly integrated. Let form again be sought. It seems to be going into the lower worlds when we're moving clockwise from the Aries petal, which is petal number 1, but you can move clockwise or counterclockwise. Let instability do its work. Well, there's a lot of petal number 3 in all this when we're first discovering what the mind is. But also the instability of the desire nature in petal number 2. So, all the way through the Hall of Ignorance, instability is reigning, and once we start to get a relationship between the higher of the pairs of opposites and the lower, the instability begins to stabilize. Let choice be made. We're ever making choices all the way up, but the significant choice really comes at the 5th petal when we decide, will we go for the higher of the pairs of opposites? Now, So I hope I'm being clear that you cannot just line these sort of evolutionary mantrams up with different petals, because they pretty well expire by the time you reach the first part of the fifth petal. And if they go any later than that, it's under special circumstances. Then, lost of mind, light supernal, it's a ninth petal thing, isn't it? With the third initiation, I see when the eye is open, all is light. It starts at the second petal with the second initiation, but it goes to the third and beyond. I am the mother and the child, I God, I matter am. There's the realization of synthesis here. Again, the three aspects have come together. It's third initiation. I build a lighted house and therein dwell from the first initiation onward, so from the seventh petal onward. Warrior am I, and from the battle I emerge triumphant from the fifth petal. We can use this, but it's very strong all the way through the initiatory process, ruled in part by Scorpio, very strong at the eighth petal. I leave the Father's house, and turning back I say. This is already beyond the Egoic Lotus. The Egoic Lotus has completed, and we are in the monadic realm, and we once did leave the Father's house. Well, there's several ways of doing it. We can come forth as the Savior, but from another perspective, we can wake up and realize as our powers grow that we want to take them all back to the Father's house, the red cattle of Geryon, the people who are controlled by desire, round them up and take them in the golden chalice back to the heavens. I am that and that I am. It's not the fifth petal. It's going to be the ninth petal and beyond. See, and before that time, we're just working towards it. I come forth, and from the plane of mind I rule. Well, I have to be focused in the higher mind, ninth petal again, areas of the ninth petal and beyond. I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self I grow and glow. I am in the soul, and I recognize the personality from the soul perspective. Ninth petal and beyond. I choose the way which leads between the two great lines of force. It's not the fifth petal. It's not maybe even it can begin at the Libra petal, petal number 7. But the true soul path, petal number 9, choosing between the path of the spirit and the path of the personality. So, water of life am I. At the second initiation, we begin to realize that we're part of the new group of world servers. But you see, and on, it becomes stronger. So you see why it cannot possibly be simply assigned, these spiritual mantrams cannot simply start to be assigned at petal 1 simply because they may be ruled by a particular sign. They don't belong at petal 1. They don't begin until the latter part of petal number 5. And I think I have to say so up at the top. These do not begin before the second part of petal 5 and continue on beyond the destruction of the egoic lotus in some cases. So, I'm going to make this different color because I want it to stand out, and I want this to stand out as well, that when we're dealing with these lights, we have to be at least aspirants, otherwise it's just an unconscious response. And I will simply say here, these early mantrams pertain to the early petals and not beyond the early part of petal 5. So instead of doing a major rearrangement here, I think you'll understand what I'm driving at. The main thing for all of us is to know the particular moment we're in, the particular task we have to do, the particular energy at our disposal, the particular aspects which incline one way or another, and then just make a very intelligent choice, backed by the will and supported by unity and love, to use what we have in the right way to accomplish what we must. That's what we have to do. Okay. Now, if all goes well, these are the 12s, about which I'm not going to say much at all, Under here, the 9 celestial orders, unfortunately given by different authors in different ways, although the seraphim are the highest, no question about that. Dominions, puissances or powers, and archangels, not very high, actually, in the scheme of things. Principalities, virtues, and angels. All right, well, let's just say that this is a huge study in itself. Someone with a good 7th ray and a strong Kabbalistic inclination can get into it. Here are the 10 archangels and of the Holy Sephiroth. And we've talked a bit about the Sephiroth, but not about the archangels connected with them. So I'm just going to take a pass on these correlations. As I've said, since there are somehow, 140 billion conscious angelic units in our solar system, and only 60 billion conscious human units, I'm going to say, leave that for another day. The tarot cards are here, and this, I think, is actually done correctly. The magician is Mercury, the priestess Moon, Empress Venus. Maybe I did it myself. I don't know. Emperor, Aries, Hierophant, Taurus, Lovers, Gemini, definitely. Chariot, Cancer. Strength is Leo. The Hermit is Virgo. Justice is Libra. Death is Scorpio. Temperance, Sagittarius. Yes, I did this. Devil, Capricorn, Star, Aquarius. And somehow Pisces gets connected with the Moon. There might be some more desirable connections, possibly. But anyway, it's connected with the illusion of the 18th. The tarot cards can be very limiting, because they only give one particular slant. We have outer function in diversity and soul. So these are different ways. My colleague BL collected these. What each one of these Sephiroth mean. And maybe we have the 11 Sephiroth. It might include Dath or something. I think, again, this relates more to the collected wisdom of the previous solar system and would make a huge and interesting study. And I've mentioned it somewhere along the way, but I'm just not going to get exhaustive about this at the present moment. From the labors of Hercules, we have the these are the tribes of Judah, the tribes of Israel. Some of them looked at in different ways, with different assignments. The 12 angels according to the months and signs, and again, this is something that can be looked at from different perspectives. The angels in the days of the week, if Raphael is Mercury, it is Wednesday. So if these assignments are correct. Anyway, just like the book 777, which Aleister Crowley sort of wrote and borrowed liberally from Wynne Westcott and others, many tables of correspondences are there. They're all interesting. But, our subject is still the Egoic Lotus, so we can't go too far off. The correspondences here of the planets and the metals is correct, as far as what I understand. So, we can look at lead as taking place very early in the process, and gold by the time we reach the third initiation at the ninth petal, and, maybe beyond. and silver generically up until the fifth petal, and gold beyond that generically. Many possible correspondences, all of them interesting, and I think, I can only go so far with, well, let's just say I'm only willing to go so far with it. And again, let's just say that my colleague began all of these with the same several, and learning, trending towards wisdom, and wisdom synthesis. I don't want to keep on correcting these, I don't want to do that. But let's just say dismounting from the fixed cross at the third degree, sometimes he seems to tell us that we are dismounted. There we go. Okay. He seems to tell us that we are dismounted from the fixed cross and go immediately onto the cardinal cross, but that is not the case. So I'm just going to put this in, dismounted from, and I'll put this in, dismounted from, and then go back to the other one, where I will put this in finally in its right place. I don't want to continue to correct these, but I'll just be a minute and get that all set up. So there are these various categories, and the lists are below if we care to deal with them, but as I say, the correspondences differ. We cannot simply look at one particular source. The Sephiroth are there, but they really deal with paths. And, in a sense, they deal with the descent of the monad all the way into incarnation. At the same time, when we're dealing with the reascent, we begin with practical work, and we rise through the various categories here. Let's see what they are. Yeah, we rise and we express rising from the foundation through the brilliance of Mercury and the victory of love, and the Tifereth is a solar Sephiroth, but it represents, I think, integration. I'm very surprised to see Mars in such a high position, but then again, we are dealing with the collective wisdom of the first solar system, previous solar system, that is, and mercy leading to understanding and wisdom, and eventually the crown chakra. So we can see all of this as an ascent towards mastership. And if we care to assign these in various ways, we can do that. But let's just say that none of this is really going to work in terms of the path until the fifth petal is attended to, and work is being done on the fifth petal, and a great choice is made there about becoming a true aspirant. And then the victory of the soul and the beauty of the soul integrated personality, and let's just say, in a way, the strength of the spiritual will, and the mercy and compassion when Buddhi comes into the picture, and the divine understanding that can be had once the spiritual triad is accessed, and the deep wisdom of the triad, we could say, all of these rising towards Atma, and eventually the crown of the monad. So the tarot has its own methods, its own color scales, its own requirements of the many paths in relation to the trumps. It's really an elaborate and interesting system. DK holds it a secondary system, but he himself knows a lot about it, as did HPB. So we can lay all these out on the petals, and as in a way ascending even beyond the structure of the egoic lotus when it is destroyed. And we can, with the different sephiroth, relate them, I think, for positive or negative to the various signs of the zodiac. But when you start talking about the emperor, you know, is this the spiritual will? Is this any emperor in charge of any type of external expression? The Hierophant comes later. He confers the light. The lovers of the soul and personality. The chariot is the vehicle, the temple. But which temple and which vehicle? The strength of the lion can be the dominating personality, or it can be the strength of soul, even the strength of the monad. The hermit, the deep occult student intent on truth. So we can see various places we could assign these in the ongoing trials of the path. Justice between the soul and personality, between spirit and matter. Death, giving the liberation of consciousness, but of course it can be applied to the death of consciousness as well. Temperance, the correct management of all energies. Capricorn here is the devil, so it's materiality holding the consciousness very low. It's the early petals, but later, of course, it has to be God, because the devil, the demon, is the inverse of God. Aquarius is the star and the realization of accomplishment through all of the astrological energies. And the moon, well, it's said to be Pisces. It's a low rendition of Pisces. Sometimes there are favorites in the early authors, and maybe Pisces was not such a favorite, but we all know the redemptive qualities of Pisces. And when it comes to angels, you know, will they be unconsciously contacted, or will they be consciously utilized? And who's to say which is higher, since you can use all of these signs of the zodiac and presumably the ability to contact various angels at different stages of your unfoldment. Okay, so as I say, it's a deep study. The ascent from lead, we might say, to iron, to copper and tin, to mercury, to silver, to gold, and so forth. We can order these in different ways. I think the important thing to know is we're moving from Saturn in the very lowest petals to gold in the highest. We are becoming solarized, and we're, of course, the moon is silver, and it doesn't especially mean something lower base, and yet the moon is, in our form of occultism, low and base, whereas silver is not. So we have to use discretion in ordering these. Venus is the soul, and copper is that color. I was in a beautiful church here in Helsinki, and the entire ceiling, and it's massive, is made of pure copper. It must make an amazing meditative experience. Let's just say that lead and iron are the lowest. Tin is the preservative. Copper has conductivity abilities, and they all these metals have their own particular properties, and the properties, if positive, can be related to spiritual attainments. So as you see, I'm just kind of giving an overview here without getting into any one of these great studies. I think we can know quite a bit about the Egoic Lotus and how we are to operate on the path without getting into these ancillary studies, but they would be very interesting. Sometimes, you know, when attempting to reconcile the second and third ray, it's a difficulty. I'm remembering one of the students a first-ray soul, but she had a second-ray astral and a third-ray physical, and DK talked about how difficult it was to get that second and third ray working together. Well, take a look at our planet, second-ray soul, third-ray personality. Look at our generic structure, soul on the second aspect, personality on the third. Difficult to get them together. And then when you look at a system of wisdom which came from the previous solar system and is sort of summarized in the Old Testament, and a system of wisdom which is pertinent to the present solar system, it may not be easy to reconcile them together. But on the other hand, we do get the general idea of what is high and what is low, what is ascent, and starting from a low point and rising to a high point. We get the idea of the general direction. We do know we have to transmute alchemically base metal into gold, which is a process relating to our psycho-spiritual refinement, and so correspondences could be worked out here. But at this stage in my life, I would rather deal in some ways with the practical use of energies, and I would rather deal with the perception of unity and oneness and the induction of that perception and identification of identity with being. Those will be my favorite and long-lasting subjects after I finish dealing with ridiculous entirety. But not entirely ridiculous, because entirely ridiculous entirety. Okay, not entirely ridiculous, because I am actually putting a boundary upon myself and refusing to go off on a great correlative quest involving angels, archangels, tribes of Israel, and all the rest of it, to correlate the third ray system with the second ray system. So that requires a little bit of restraint, and well, I'm exercising that restraint. The last one of these tabulations, well, basically, you know, I'm not quite sure where this leads, because we have done the color correlations. Basically, we have. We've done the crosses. We've done the halls and the different signs. Now, bear in mind that these elemental assignments here, earth to the knowledge petals, water to the love petals, fire to the sacrifice petals, air to the synthesis petals, these are important, but they're not the only ones. Remember the progressive assignments, both counterclockwise and clockwise. And so let's just say that the colors are scattered in various places. All the different colors are given. And when it comes to the synthesis of the petals that I have worked on in the larger documents, I've gone through just about every color in relation to possible relation to every petal, at least once we reach the middle of the egoic lotus. So this is this looks like an incomplete tabulation. We haven't really dealt with the numerological key here particularly, but we certainly have dealt with first, second, and third aspects, and every time you're in a tier of petal, you begin with the third aspect at petal 1, the second aspect at petal 2, and the first aspect at petal 3. So they are reversed. Although, you know, they can reverse because, yeah, the first aspect at petal 3, and yet there is also an intelligence aspect at petal 3, which can correlate with the third, and a kind of a power aspect connected with the first petal of every tier, which is why some of them begin with cardinal signs, more indicating the power aspect. With numbers, you can go all kinds of ways, but there is a numerological correlation, and the meaning, you know, unity and ignorance. At the first petal, duality, love comes in, intelligence comes in with petal number 3, integration with petal number 4. 4 is a harmonizing integration, expression of radiance at petal number 5, Petal number 6 is purification of desire. Petal number 7, we're actually beginning to manifest the soul through initiations. Petal number 8, another great conflict at the with the number 8, correlating with Scorpio, but the Antikarana in the figure 8 is also suggested. Petal number 9, completion of the third aspect of the egoic lotus. Remember, 9 is the number of the third aspect. And then we have the synthesis petals representing the second aspect, and the jewel in the lotus representing the first aspect. And you could, I suppose, I haven't reversed those numbers, starting with 9 and moving towards 1, but there is a possibility to do that. 5 still comes out in the middle at the central petal. So it would go, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And maybe we can even reverse the number, the sequence from 1 to 12, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But, excuse me, getting into such correlations, I think, is not too profitable at this moment. So what have we done? We've actually, this is a rather long program. It's already 3 hours and 11 minutes. Maybe, it'll end up being about 3:15 or something like that. We have gone through a number of tabulations and charts. We have collected various lists which can be placed upon the petals. Not always in a one-to-one correspondence, but at least we can find, because the petals and their unfoldment represent the entirety of human history. So all of these lists come in at a certain temporal point in the study of human history, and they, not all people from the very beginning are doing all things. It's not possible. The degree of maturity is not there. So a number of these rules, commandments, restraints, paths, methods, and so forth are coming in once an individual is really interested in spirituality. And when the higher of the pairs of opposites begins to be a draw upon him or her. So there's so much in the early petals that are just about ordinary human life and just discovering what the physical plane, the astral plane, and even the mental plane are all about. And then once we have a little facility with them, we begin to use them for the higher purposes that begin to dawn upon us as the higher of the pairs of opposites begins to make its impression. People like ourselves are interested in soul culture and also in invoking the presence of the spirit, but we haven't yet necessarily mastered our personality or ended the ancient authority of the personality. We should make no justifications for it. That ancient authority has to be ended. And pretty well through the program of initiation, we are ending it. The great value here of all of these correspondences is that, well, there's a very complex inner world of energies, and rather than being bewildered by the energies and forces and their hierarchicalized presentation, we know their meaning, their value, and how to apply them in certain contexts to achieve certain things. That's going to be my next and I think last, top of my head, kind of contribution to this analysis of the egoic lotus. I realize it could have been done in a more succinct way. I will never be addressed as your succinctness, I can be, but I'd like to expand upon these subjects, and I realize there may be a bit of prolixity here going on, but at least a person will be steeped in the subject, so they will come out with things more related to each other than they did when they entered. And it won't just be kind of a concrete-minded listing of factors. There the relationship between things will have been demonstrated, and these things will adhere to each other in their consciousness. So my next work will be, I think, to assume that whoever would bother with this is at least working in the latter part of petal 5. I'll assume work going on in petal 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 with their objectives. When it comes to 10, 11, and 12, I think I've dealt with how to proceed. It's not that we're proceeding there, but, I've dealt with how to apply energies to various achievements in the realm of synthesis. What I'd like to do is take the rays, the signs, and the planets and say, okay, look, you have to become an aspirant, petal 5. You have to become a probationary, petal 6. You have to become a first-degree initiate, petal 7, a second-degree initiate, a third-degree initiate. How will you use these energies if they are strong in your horoscope or in your ray chart? What can you do with them to achieve the goal that is before you? Now, it's going to vary in everybody's case, of course. Everybody's an individual. Everybody has a unique way back home. The building of the Antakarana is a unique process that relates to each unit in a special way. But in general, the utilization, the manipulation, the application of energies is what interests me. And if we could, pull upon these energy strands and apply them in the correct way in any context, instead of just blundering into things based upon our habitual conditioning, then we're already far more intelligently approaching the achievement of the task which lies before us. So, again, all of this has to be regarded as seed thoughts. That, you can take anything you like and expand upon it and see how it might relate to your life. But every one of us has an egoic lotus, whether created in a previous chain or solar system, or whether evoked from the monad, or whether created or facilitated in its creation by the solar angel. We all have an egoic lotus. Every human being does. So even those human beings who are not the so-called hothouse plants that Blavatsky talks about, those in whom the solar angel has invested itself in the brain and on the higher mental plane and so forth, on the lower mental plane even, in the mental unit. We all have an egoic lotus. And it is our temple. It is our increasingly lighted house. And we really have to learn to do the things that are necessary to build the temple. In Masonry, we are the temple builders. It's the Temple of Solomon we're building in Masonry, but all of us are building the Temple of Solomon, and we build better when we know what is the plan, what are the materials, which are to be applied first, which are to be applied second, in the performance of any particular task, what tasks follow what tasks, which are first, which are second. In other words, priorities. We're not building the roof before we have the foundation. You know what I mean. So if we have a really good idea of the plan, the design that is to emerge, the phases of the process, the materials, i.e. the energies and forces which are to be used, and the right manner of using those energies and forces, we're going to build the temple wisely. For now, it's the building of the egoic lotus. Later, it will be something more, and eventually the conscious enhancement of the temple of Ezekiel. However that might be done, and we won't know that for quite a while. And the building continues as we build towards reunification with the one and only universal logos, which we are. Well, I must say, I'm kind of happy to be more or less done with this charts section. Some, as I say, I realize, there is a theme of repetition here, and it's it's quite all right. It does give us the foundation. You know, looking through what we've done, Hall of Ignorance, the petals and the four elements, the petals and path, or path of initiation, or initiation, maybe it should say of. Have a feeling. Then the petals and the soul laws, many other things thrown in, of course. The petals and the races, petals and the chakras, petals and the senses, petals, the means of yoga, the paths and the truths, the petals, the fires and the rules. I've been down at the bottom of the page quite a bit, so it doesn't come up exactly correctly. Petals, the lights and the keynotes, the petals, the lights and other correspondences of 12s, more something to get into in the future, but I'm eager to kind of get this out there so people can work with it and spare myself yet more correlations. And finally, the petals, the colors, and the numbers, and we have actually throughout the different charts and the different programs gone into that quite a bit. So that if anybody mentions a number, let us say, you know, I say 4, so you immediately think where 4 may belong and how it may work. Or if I say 8, you might think of the 8th petal, but you might think of the antikarana, you might think of death, you know. You might think of Mercury, you know. There are all these connections. 9 is completeness. You might think of the third ray, the third aspect. You might think of the third initiation. Different associations will occur when different numbers are given. 10, you might think of completeness, initiation, and even transfiguration. In Capricorn, 11, you might think of hierarchy. 12, you might think of the Davic kingdom and completion of the zodiacal cycle. 13, you might think of Christ and his disciples. You might think of the jewel and the lotus and the 12 petals. There are all kinds of ways of enumerating these things. The main thing is for each one of us to tread the path more successfully. Not to blunder along the path, but to really know what we are doing and what our next step actually is, and how we get from where we are to where we need to be. And of course this means we have to understand where we need to be. It's not an easy thing to determine your place on the path of evolution, and ever the ahamkara is there, glamour and illusion, threatening to give a distorted point of view, threatening to inflate our self-estimation. DK told us that the beginner is ever more conceited than the more experienced student. So misjudgment of what the path is, what its requirements are, and where we really stand in relation to treading the path, these things are unfortunately very possible and frequently do occur. There is really so much that the Tibetan has given us. I have, well, one way or another in Theosophy or the Bailey teaching, I guess I've been in it about 50 years. I can go back to 1963 and buying certain theosophical books and so forth, about 50 years, 49, 50 years. And just with the Bailey teaching alone, it has been, you know, it's like an ocean. Our intro to the ocean of Theosophy. How do we find our place in this ocean? What particular part of the ocean shall we sail? You know, how should we get our bearings? What is our particular greatest interest? At this stage of my life, what I'm trying to do is deal with an overview, hopefully sometimes a practical overview of certain of the major themes that Master DK has presented. Of course, he's presented so many that it's not possible for me actually to do that. But I'm trying to talk these books as if we were having a class together. We were having a study group, you know. That's what they do in study groups, you know. You study Master DK's teaching, and we stop after a paragraph and we talk to each other about it and what ideas come to us, and we expand upon what he has said. Of course, what he has said is probably, just the way to say it, but we expand upon it in order to create a deeper understanding for ourselves. That's basically what I'm doing as I'm talking about his material, trying to create a deeper understanding for myself, and hopefully in the process, whatever errors may be there and so forth, hopefully still in the process, helping to increase the understanding of those who have the patience to go into some of these matters in detail and with meticulous entirety, building up a network of relationships which give way to the realization of pure reason and the intuition. So the true meaning of anything within that field is understood in relation to everything else. Now, of course, that's a very tall order, and we're just, the ABCs just on our way. Just think of Master DK with all he knows, and he had to somehow just boil that all down, almost in outline form, to give the most salient points to us. It must have been very hard to condense this huge, vast knowledge down into what we could assimilate. Well, maybe my approach is a little different. I'm just taking a few things and expanding upon them. But in the process of expanding upon them, connections, networks of relationship are made. It's all kind of a mercurial process. And we will find the ideas in our minds, our thoughts in our minds, multiply related. And so many, many new pathways are created by creating these connections between different thoughts, and we call them ideas, okay. And we can travel along these pathways more rapidly and are not so isolated, and instead of just appreciating just what we appear to be or just a small environment, eventually we will appreciate the nature of what we consider to be the whole. All right, friends, well, what I think I'm going to do, we're just about at the end here, so I'm going to take the great invocation, as from time to time one does, and offer that as the rounding off of this particular section on the charts and sort of the overview of the subject. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Okay, friends, our next one will be program number 67, 67, and it will be practical application of energies. I will say that and hope for the best, okay? So that will be our next work together, and we'll see you soon. See you then. Study hard.